This story is titled, They Claimed I Wasn't Their Dad, so I stopped acting like one, took my truck, and left, but now they're desperate to get me back. Hey everyone. Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now, let's start the video. Alright, Reddit. Never thought I'd be typing this out, but after spending the last 3 hours reading posts about stepdads getting screwed over, I figured maybe sharing my story might help some other poor bastard avoid the shit I went through. Warning, this is going to be long and probably full of typos. 'Cause I'm running on zero sleep and typing this on my phone in my truck. I'm 41, male, now been driving trucks since I was 23. Started with nothing but a CDL and a dream of owning my own rig someday. Worked my ass off, lived in that truck, saved every penny until I could buy my own Peterbilt. Was doing pretty good, too. Had my own route, regular customers, even started building a decent savings. No wife, no kids, just me and my dog living the dream on the open road. Wasn't exactly killing it. But I had my shit together, you know? Owned my truck outright, had a small apartment I barely used, and enough extra cash to treat myself to a good steak dinner when I felt like it. Not bad for a guy who grew up in a trailer park with nothing. First off, you gotta understand how this whole mess started. It was 2015, and I was at PetSmart buying food for my German Shepherd. Ghost. Normal Thursday afternoon, nothing special. Ghost was this big goofball I'd rescued a year before, best decision I ever made. But that's pretty much the only good decision in this story, lol. So, I'm there comparing prices on dog food. Shit's expensive, right? When this kid literally slams into my legs at full speed. I mean, this little dude was booking it. Ghost, being the gentle giant he is, just starts wagging his tail like crazy. This kid, Liam, was like 4 or 5, all energy and no brakes, you know the type? He's wearing this Spider-Man t-shirt that's seen better days and has this toy car clutched in his hand that he apparently thought could outrun my dog. Behind him comes this woman looking absolutely done with life, pushing a stroller with a baby in it. That was Mia and little Amy. Mia looked like one of those moms you see in movies who's trying to hold it together, but is one spilled sippy cup away from losing it. Dark circles under her eyes, messy bun, the whole attitude. I help Liam up, kid still giggling, cause Ghost is giving him the world's sloppiest kisses and Mia starts apologizing like crazy. I'm so sorry, he's just so hyper today. Liam apologized to the nice man, etc., etc., but I'm just laughing, cause honestly, it was the most excitement I'd had all week. Being a trucker means a lot of lonely hours on the road. So random kid attacks are actually a nice change of pace, lol. Turns out they were there, cause Liam was begging for a pet snake. Hell no, according to Mia, and Amy needed to look at the fish. Fishies, or she wouldn't nap. We got to talking, you know how it goes, making small talk while a hyperactive kid tries to convince your dog to be his new best friend. That's when I noticed her Marine Corps widow pin on her purse. Didn't say anything about it at first, but man, it explained a lot. Found out later her husband, James, died in Afghanistan about a year before, real hero type, Bronze Star, the whole deal, left behind a 4-year-old boy who could barely remember him and a baby girl who'd never know him. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I didn't notice Mia was pretty, she was, but that's not what got me. It was watching her try so damn hard to keep it together. Like when Liam asked if the snake could sleep in Daddy's old room, and her voice cracked just a tiny bit when she said no, or how she was counting out exact change for dog treats. 'Cause you could tell money was tight. Ghost sealed the deal, honestly. This dog, who usually takes forever to warm up to people, was letting Liam climb all over him like a jungle gym. Even little Amy in her stroller was giggling every time Ghost would gently lick her hand. Mia joked that it was the first time she'd seen Amy smile at a stranger in months. I did something stupid, then offered to let them walk Ghost with me around the store while we looked at pets they definitely weren't getting. Mia was firm on the no snake rule, and honestly, good call. Liam was over the moon holding Ghost's leash with me right there, obviously, and Mia actually relaxed a little. We ended up exchanging numbers for doggy playdates, she said, half joking. But I think we both knew what was up. Looking back now, sitting in my truck with Ghost's gray muzzle on my lap, I wonder if he knew. That dog always was smarter than me. He loved those kids right away, but every time Mia came around, he'd get this look, not growling, nothing aggressive, just watchful. Should have paid more attention to that. But you know what they say about hindsight being 20/20 and all that. I guess your dog can't protect you from your own stupid decisions, even if he tries. Anyway, those first few months after meeting Mia were, man, I don't even know how to describe them. Started with those doggy playdates we talked about. I'd bring Ghost to this little park near their apartment complex, and Liam would literally vibrate with excitement every time he saw us pull up in my truck. Kid loved that truck, by the way. Thought it was the coolest thing ever that I drove a monster truck. It's just a regular Peterbilt, but try telling that to a 4-year-old, lol. Here's where I made my first mistake, started adjusting my routes to be home more. Any trucker reading this knows that's basically throwing money away. But there I was turning down good long-haul jobs to take local routes so I could be around for stuff like Liam's t-ball games and Amy's doctor appointments. Mia was struggling bad with money, never asked directly for help, but you could see it. Apartment was always freezing in winter, cause she was saving on heat. Kids wearing clothes that were a bit too small. One time I noticed Liam's shoes were literally held together with duct tape. So yeah, I stepped in. What else was I going to do? Bought Liam new shoes. Kid cried when I got him light up once, broke my heart. Started accidentally bringing over extra groceries, that kind of thing. Mia tried to refuse at first. But you try saying no when your kid's jumping around in his first new shoes in months. Got serious pretty quick after that, started staying over more and more. Ghost loved it. Dog had 2 kids to play with and a bigger space to roam. I'd come back from shorter runs, and they'd all be there waiting. Even Amy started warming up to me. Went from crying whenever I got near her to demanding bedtime stories. First time Liam called me Dad, I was under my truck doing maintenance. Kid was watching me work. Handing me tools, wrong ones usually, but hey, he was trying. Like he'd been calling me that forever. I played it cool, but man, inside I was a mess, good mess, you know? Went out that weekend and bought one of those world's best dad mugs, dumb, right? Still have it in my truck. Can't bring myself to throw it out. Mia and I got married about a year after meeting. Nothing fancy, courthouse wedding, cause I had a delivery that afternoon. She didn't want a big thing anyway, said her first wedding had been enough of a production. But I was too busy playing Superman to notice. Got a bigger place. Nice house with a yard for Ghost and the kids. Started a college fund for both kids, separate accounts under my name. Thank God. Worked my ass off to provide everything they needed and most of what they wanted. You know what's funny? Other truckers used to give me shit about being whipped, missing out on the good routes. Rushing home for dance recitals and parent-teacher conferences. But I was proud of it, proud that Amy would FaceTime me to show off her art projects. Proud that Liam wanted me to teach him about engines. Proud when other parents at school events would say what a great dad I was. Ghost was living his best life, too. Had his own spot on the couch that Mia hated but tolerated. Followed the kids everywhere. Even had playdates with the neighbors' dogs, but he never quite warmed up to Mia, wouldn't growl or anything. Just kept his distance, wouldn't take treats from her, wouldn't cuddle with her like he did with the kids. Should have paid attention to that. I started noticing little things about Mia. To how she'd introduce me as the kid's stepdad instead of her husband, how she kept a picture of James, her late husband, on her nightstand but wouldn't put up any photos of our wedding. How she'd talk about James to anyone who'd listen, brave Marine, hero, perfect father, but would change the subject if anyone asked what I did for work. But hey, the kids seemed happy. House was paid for, and I had what I thought was a family. Ghost had his humans. I had my ready-made family. Life was good. Now, remember how I said Liam was this sweet kid who thought my truck was the coolest thing ever? Yeah, well, teenagers are a whole different ball game. When he hit 17, it's like time I noticed something was really wrong was when I got back from a 3-day run. I'd busted my ass to make it home for his football game, even turned down a better-paying route to be there. Walk in the door, Ghost running to greet me like always. And I hear Liam talking to his friends in the kitchen. Nah, my real dad was a Marine, with a Bronze Star and everything. This guy's just my mom's husband. I felt like someone slapped me in the face. This was the same kid who used to beg me to take him to the truck yard. Who'd sit in my rig for hours while I taught him about engines. Now suddenly I'm just my mom's husband. But it got worse. Amy, 14 by then, started copying everything her brother did. Eye rolls. Heavy sighs whenever I walked into her room. The works. One time I asked her to clean up her mess in the kitchen. You'd think I'd asked her to donate a kidney or something. Why should I? You're not my real dad. There it was. That phrase, started hearing it more and more. Every time I tried to set any kind of rules or boundaries, you're not my real dad. Every time I tried to help with homework or give advice, you're not my real dad. I started to feel like it was their new favorite song or something. And Mia, she just checked out, always on her phone, always too busy to deal with it. One time I actually heard her on the phone with her friend laughing about how the kids were just going through a phase and how they obviously missed their real father. Real father? They don't even remember him. Like I hadn't been the one there for everything for the past 8 years. The worst part, one started noticing how Mia would talk about me to her friends. Oh, he's on the road a lot, or he drives trucks, always said in this apologetic tone, like she was embarrassed. Meanwhile, she'd talk about James, dead husband, like he hung the moon. James was a war hero, and James would have wanted this and that. Even started affecting my relationship with Ghost. Used to be he'd sleep in the kids' room, sometimes they'd fight over who got him each night, now they'd push him away, say their friends were coming over, and they didn't want dog hair everywhere. Only time they paid attention to him was when they needed something from me. Amazing how they'd suddenly become dog lovers when they wanted money or favors. But then I started finding out about all these family things. I wasn't invited to Mia's family reunions, school events, even just dinners out. They'd wait until I was on a run, then go do family stuff without me. Would see the pictures on Mia's Facebook later, them all smiling, having fun, being a real family while I was out earning the money that paid for it all. One night I confronted Mia about it. She just looked at me with this pity, like I was some dumb truck driver who didn't understand how things worked. They're teenagers, they need space. And you're gone so much anyway. Yeah, gone busting my ass to pay for their private school, their phones, their cars, 'cause apparently my truck wasn't good enough for them to be seen in anymore. Gone working extra routes to afford the lifestyle they'd gotten used to. It was like watching something rot from the inside out. On the surface, everything looked fine, nice house, nice cars, kids in good schools, but underneath it was all going to. Ghost knew. He'd started doing this thing where he'd put his head on my lap whenever I was home, just staring at me with those knowing dog eyes, like he was trying to tell me something, but I wasn't ready to listen yet. But then things went from bad to worse. Like my tools would go missing from the garage, not just misplaced, straight up gone. Liam used to help me maintain my truck. Knew exactly which tools I needed most. Funny how those were always the ones that disappeared. Then my truck started having issues, nothing major at first. A scratch here, a dent there, could have been anything, right? But then one morning I came out to find my fuel tank cap unscrewed, not loose, completely unscrewed and sitting on top. Anyone who knows trucks knows how dangerous that could have been if I hadn't caught it. So, I installed a security camera in the yard after that. Guess what I saw on the footage? Our precious boy Liam 2 a.m. messing with my truck. When I showed Mia the video, you know what she said? Well, maybe if you were home more, he wouldn't act out like this. Yeah. That's when I started keeping receipts for everything, every repair, every replacement tool, every single thing I paid for. My lawyer says that turned out to be the smartest thing I could have done. But here's where it really went sideways. Amy, my little girl who used to beg for bedtime stories, she started dating this college guy, Tim or Tom or whatever, real piece of work. Trust fund baby type who drove a BMW his daddy bought him. Didn't think much of it at first, not my business who she dates, right? Then I noticed she's not wearing the necklace I got her for her 16th birthday anymore, the one she swore she'd never take off. Found out later she told her friends it was embarrassing because it came from a truck stop. It was from Tiffany's, by the way, worked overtime for 2 months to afford it. One night I'm at home between routes, and I hear Amy and Mia talking in the kitchen. Amy's going on about how Tom's family has this big Christmas party coming up, really fancy affair. Mom, what do I tell them about Dad? My ears perk up thinking, maybe, just maybe, after all these years, Amy might acknowledge me. Even if my stepdad's a truck driver, would have been something. Amy wearing this fancy designer dress that I know Mia couldn't afford looks this old lady right in the eye and says, my father was a Marine. He died in Afghanistan when I was a baby. He was a hero. Mia is standing right there nodding along, proud as can be. And then she adds, James will be so proud of the woman Amy's become. He always wanted her to marry well. Marry well, like being a working man who provided for their family for 15 years wasn't well enough? Then Tom's dad starts talking about the wedding plans, big church wedding, country club reception. All that fancy. Then he says something about father of the bride traditions. Amy doesn't even hesitate. Oh, my Uncle Steve, Mia's brother, will be standing in for my dad. He was my dad's best friend in the Marines. Steve, who I've literally never seen contribute a damn thing to Amy's life except showing up drunk to Christmas and telling war stories about James. I must have made some kind of noise, because Ghost lets out this low whine. That's when they finally notice me standing there. The look on Amy's face, not shame, not guilt, just annoyance. Like I'd ruined her perfect moment by existing. Mia tries to play it off. Oh, Jacob, you're home early. We were just, but I'm not listening anymore. I'm looking at my house, my backyard. The party being paid for with my money. Found out later Mia used my credit card for the catering celebrating my daughter's engagement, and I'm not even supposed to exist. The bracelet box feels like it weighs 1,000 pounds in my hand. Ghost is pressed against my leg, doing that thing where he's trying to protect me but also comfort me at the same time. Tom's mom, trying to be polite, I guess, asked who I am. Before anyone can answer, I just turn around and walk away. Get in my truck. Ghost jumps in, and we leave. Spent the night at a truck stop about 50 miles away, just sitting there with Ghost, both of us staring at nothing. That night, I called Rich, my lawyer buddy, told him it's time. He just said, finally. I've had the papers ready for months. Honestly, after that engagement party, something in me just broke. Or maybe fixed itself, depending on how you look at it. Spent that whole night in my truck with Ghost, going through old photos on my phone, pictures of Liam's first baseball game, Amy's dance recital, all that family stuff I thought we had. But here's something most people don't get about trucking. It's not just some dude driving a big rig down the highway. It's a business, contracts, accounts, assets, the whole 9 yards. And while Mia and the kids were busy looking down their noses at the simple trucker, I was running that business like a goddamn CEO. That house they were living in my name. The cars they drove, my name. The credit cards Mia used to pay for that fancy engagement party, all in my name. Even the utilities were under my company's name because of some tax thing Rich set up years ago. But I played it cool, kept driving my routes, kept paying the bills, kept acting like nothing was wrong, even sat through dinner one night where Amy and Mia were talking about wedding venues that cost more than my first truck, just nodded along. Playing the dumb trucker they thought I was. Meanwhile, Rich and I went through everything: bank statements, property titles, credit card bills, all of it. Found some interesting things, too. Like how Mia had been writing checks to her brother Steve, the stand-in dad from my business account. Or how Liam had been using my credit card to buy parts for his car that somehow ended up on his friend's ride. The best part, Mia never signed any prenup. But she also never put her name on anything important. She thought not taking my last name meant she was keeping her independence, or some shit actually meant she had no legal claim to my assets. Rich laughed his ass off when he realized that. You know what really gets me, though? While all this is going down, they're still acting like I'm the bad guy. Liam's still messing with my truck, caught him on camera again, trying to sugar the gas tank this time. Amy's still playing the poor fatherless bride card to Tom's family. And Mia's still running her mouth to anyone who will listen about how her first husband was such a hero. One night I'm sitting in my study doing paperwork, running my own fleet now. Got 2 other drivers working for me, and I hear them in the kitchen. They're laughing about something, and Mia goes, well, at least the wedding will be paid for. It's not like he knows how to hide money. He's just a trucker. Ghost, who'd basically moved into my study with me at this point, looks up at me like, you hearing this, Dad? I just patted his head and kept working on transfer paperwork with Rich. What they didn't know is that I'd been moving money around for months legal-like. All above board. Rich made sure of that, but strategic, setting up new accounts, redirecting business income, canceling credit cards, and creating new ones they didn't know about. Even started a whole new LLC for my growing fleet. The day everything was ready, I took Ghost for a long walk. Had to think about what I was about to do. Wasn't just about revenge. It was about taking back what was mine, my dignity, my self-respect, my life. You know what finally convinced me? Saw Amy showing off her engagement ring to her friends in the backyard, big fancy thing that probably cost more than most people make in a month. She's going on about how she's finally going to have a real family once she marries Tom. That night, I made one last call to Rich. Do it. The plan we'd spent months putting together was finally going into motion. And let me tell you something about patience. You ever watch one of those nature documentaries where a predator just waits patiently, letting their prey think everything's fine, until the perfect moment to strike? That was me. That Tuesday morning, I told Mia I was heading out for a 3-day run the night before. She probably thought I was off being a good little trucker, earning more money for precious Amy's wedding. Hell, Liam was probably already planning what part of my rig to mess with next. What they didn't know, I was parked just an hour away at my buddy's yard, watching everything unfold through the security cameras I'd installed, and boy, what a show it was. The lawyer, Rich, timed everything perfectly. The courier showed up right as Mia was having her morning coffee. 3 thick envelopes, each one a different kind of. You should have seen her face when she opened that first package. Divorce papers. But not just any divorce papers, we're talking a whole goddamn manuscript of their security footage of Liam's little vandalism hobby. Bank statements showing Mia treating my business account like her personal piggy bank. Screenshots of Amy talking about me online while flashing the designer crap I paid for, all of it documented and notarized. Then came the eviction notice. Mia always acted so high and mighty about keeping her independence, not taking my last name, never once bothered to check if her name was on the house deed. Though funny how that works out. But the cherry on top, that 3rd envelope, watching her face as she realized every credit card was canceled, every joint account closed, every asset transferred, all perfectly legal, all documented. All gone, like watching someone realize they've been playing poker with a marked deck, and they just lost everything. The meltdown was biblical. First came Mia's calls screaming about the wedding and the house and how I couldn't do this to them. Then Liam trying to act tough about the credit cards like he had any right to them after what he did to my truck. Finally, Amy real waterworks about her special day being ruined. How Tom's family would think they're trash. Not one word about the years I spent being her dad, not one. I'm sorry, in sight. Mia tried running to her fancy lawyer friends. But turns out they're not so friendly when they realize their client doesn't have a legal leg to stand on. No joint accounts, no joint property. Not even acclaimed that overpriced furniture she loved to show off to her friends, all bought with business accounts, all mine. Then Mia's brother Steve shows up, probably thinking he's going to play tough guy. Remember Steve, the stand-in dad for Amy's wedding? Yeah. He wasn't so tough when my lawyer's associate served him with a cease and desist and a restraining order. Turns out threatening someone who keeps receipts isn't such a smart move. By sunset, Mia's crying to anyone who will listen. Amy's playing victim on social media, and Liam's still making threats about my truck. Thanks for the written evidence, genius. But here's the best part. One made sure everyone knew why. Rich helped me put together a nice little information package for all their fancy friends. Tom's family, everything laid out nice and neat. The vandalism, the theft, the lies about being a grieving military family while living off my work, even threw in some choice recordings of them mocking my job. Tom's family, old money types, real proper. They didn't take too kindly to finding out their future in-laws were a bunch of grifters. That fancy country club wedding suddenly got. The next few days, I got hundreds of messages, threats, begging, guilt trips, you name it. I didn't answer a single one. Just sat in my truck with Ghost watching karma do its thing through my phone screen. Drove by the house a week later, moving trucks in the driveway. Guess reality's a bitch when it finally shows up. Now sitting here by the lake where Ghost and I used to take the kids fishing, Ghost sprawling out in the grass next to my chair. Probably dreaming about chasing rabbits or stealing my breakfast sandwich like he did this morning. Been a year since everything went down, and sometimes I still can't believe how much has changed. Funny thing about hitting rock bottom, once you start climbing back up, you realize maybe you needed the fall to appreciate the view. Take my business. For example, remember those 2 drivers I mentioned? Now there's 6 of us all running solid routes, all trucks paid for. Amazing what you can do with your money when it's not being bled dry by people who see you as an ATM with legs. Couldn't keep the old house. Though too many ghosts, and I don't mean the 4-legged kind. Found a smaller place near my truck yard, instead got a big fenced yard where he can run, a garage where I can work on my trucks in peace. And most importantly, no drama walking through the door every night. People keep asking me about them. Guess everyone loves a good train wreck, right? Mia ended up moving in with her hero brother Steve. Funny how his heroic spirit dried up when she actually needed help. Last I heard, she's answering phones at some dental office. Turns out just a trucker wasn't such a bad provider after all. Liam's working at his uncle's tire shop. Now college wasn't so appealing once daddy's money stopped flowing. Kind of ironic. Kid who thought manual labor was beneath him is now changing tires for a living. Life's got a sense of humor, I'll give it that. And Amy, that fairy tale wedding crashed and burned. Trust fund. Tom's family had some concerns about their precious son marrying into a family with questionable values. Their words, not mine. They offered to bankroll a smaller ceremony. But Princess wouldn't have it. She's slinging plates at some chain restaurant now, living back with Mia. That Tiffany bracelet I bought for her birthday, sold it. Got Ghost an orthopedic bed instead. Best trade I ever made. The messages still come sometimes. Mia's essays about how I destroyed the family go straight to Rich's evidence folder. Amy tried the "I miss you, Dad" routine on my birthday. Funny how that word only matters when they need something. Liam, radio silence good. You know what's weird though? I don't feel anything for them anymore. No hate, no love, just nothing. But life keeps rolling. Fleet's growing. Got good people working with me who actually respect what we do. Got a date next weekend. 2 owns a diner on one of my regular routes. She's got her own business, her own life. And get this, she actually thinks what I do is something to be proud of. Ghost gave her the paw of approval, which is really all the review I need. And you know what? After all this, I realized something important. Being a provider doesn't make you a father, and being a father doesn't mean being a doormat. Sometimes the family you think you're building is just a house of cards. And sometimes Ghost just dropped his ball in my lap for the 100th time. The only family you need is the one that's been lying at your feet all along. Ghost is giving me that look now, the one that says, enough with the heavy stuff. Dad, let's play. Think I'll take his advice after all. He's been right about everything else. Edit 1. Ghost says thanks for all the love. He's currently snoring in his fancy new bed, living his best life. Final edit to everyone fighting their own battles. It gets better. Keep your dignity. Document everything, and never let anyone shame you for honest work. Ghost and I have an early route tomorrow, so we're signing off. Remember, sometimes losing a fake family is worth finding yourself.